Happy Thursday, and welcome to Gamereactor Live. As always, when it's Friday, we are having news.
Yay.
And GR Friday nights. Today it's Call of Duty. I'm joined by Ingvi. I'm going to give you a proper Call of Duty experience this time.
Yes, that's going to be awesome.
Yeah. So we're doing that in the second hour. You can still sign up at GR Friday nights on Xbox Live, and we'll play that the second hour. But the first hour is news, and we are, as always, joined by Bengt Lemne. How are you doing, Bengt? And we should be joined by Rasmus. I don't know if he's gotten back from...
I'm back. I'm here. Hello.
And as I said, it's Thursday, so for Destiny fans, I just want to say, Sir is there. He has the last word. Get that. That's a really good gun. And then let's get into the news. So, Bengt, what's the first news story?
Well, you may have guessed it. We got Rasmus on to talk about his experiences at BlizzCon. So we're gonna walk through the various announcements made at BlizzCon, and of course starting with the earth-shattering news that a new IP from Blizzard is being made, the first one in 17 years. Huge surprise at the opening of BlizzCon. The game is called Overwatch. It's a team-based first-person shooter, 6-on-6, somewhat similar to Team Fortress 2, and it's gonna enter into beta in 2015. It was playable at BlizzCon, and well, I think I just need to leave it off to Rasmus to sort of give us the nitty-grits of why we should be excited about this new shooter.
Right. I mean, as you said, it's the first new IP from Blizzard in 17 years, and I think it caught everybody by surprise. Even though the name Overwatch has been out for a while, somebody noticed that they registered this trademark earlier this year. I don't think anybody, at least not me, had imagined anything like that big or that big departure from what they usually do, because you know, as we're driving from the airport to the hotel, I was talking to some other journalists about Blizzard has sort of gone the Disney route lately. Like, they had the three main franchises, and everything else they've done for the past few years has been branched from that, like Hearthstone and Heroes of the Storm. And then they come up with this, which is like completely left field and way out of like the blue compared to anything anybody had imagined. I mean, I heard the word Overwatch, and my thought immediately went to games like XCOM, because you put guys in Overwatch mode. So I imagined, hey, maybe they're going the strategy route with Warcraft again and doing like a turn-based miniature game or something, right? But no, brand new shooter. And like you said, yeah, very reminiscent of Team Fortress. I'd actually say, you know, as far as genres go, it's pretty much a Team Fortress copy. Somebody made the joke that, you know, Valve stole Dota from Blizzard with Dota 2, so now Blizzard is getting back at them by stealing Team Fortress 3.
Yeah, but it seems a little bit different also because of the various. I guess the heroes are what really differentiates it between something like Team Fortress. It feels a little bit more extravagant in that sense.
Yeah. The different. There are 12 heroes in the game at the moment, or in the demo that they were showing, and their playstyles individually is radically different. Like lots of them have different mobility skills. Like one guy can climb up walls, and another has jetpack. And Tracer, the girl with the glasses that you've seen in all the promo pics, she can blink, like short range teleport, and then rewind time 3 seconds. So she moves back to where she was 3 seconds ago and regains whatever health she had at that point. And so yeah, there's a lot of very broad characterization there, and different playstyles, and also something they're talking about is that, you know, they want to build a game that also appeals to the non-Twitch players, like those who aren't hardcore shooter players to begin with. Including like healer characters and this Viking guy Torbjorn who builds turrets, and there's another robot dude who morphs into a turret. They talked about, you know, giving the players something different to do than moving their crosshair on top of their enemies. And then everything's objective based, so there's no pure deathmatch mode, only capture points or payload, which again is a straight ripoff from Team Fortress 2.
Yeah. I should also add the fact that there were sort of mumblings about this perhaps being Titan turned into something else, but that has been completely dismissed. This is a completely separate thing, and Titan, of course, the new big MMO RPG that was completely cancelled a while back. So it has nothing to do with that. It's a brand new thing, and I'm just getting curious. Was there any mention of perhaps one or two of these heroes finding their way into Heroes of the Storm, or is this franchise going to be treated like the other Blizzard franchises in that sense?
Yeah, I think both teams addressed it actually, both the Heroes of the Storm and the Overwatch team. And the Heroes of the Storm guys pretty much said that sure, why not? And the Overwatch guys
got the Lost Vikings in there, so why not?
Yeah, exactly right. And the Overwatch guys are saying like, well, we have to earn that, like they have to build a sort of history and rapport around the characters that actually makes people want them in Heroes, right? But yeah, absolutely, that's probably going to happen.
But presumably Heroes is going to get new heroes for many years to come anyway, so good for them to get a new well to take out from it. Yeah,
as long as that game's still running.
It's good for them to have a new well to take take characters from. But yeah, any comments in the studio on Overwatch? Any observations from afar?
Based purely on the trailer that we're seeing right now, I think it's going to have to compete with Gearbox's Battleborn.
That is probably right. Yeah, and if we're gonna call it already, I think Overwatch is gonna take that win. Or like probably be the more successful game just because of Blizzard's history and their huge marketing machine. Because something I've been thinking about recently is that, after they introduced that Battle.net launcher application where all your Blizzard games are combined in one, that means every World of Warcraft player in the world and every Diablo player and StarCraft player in the world, they get a message saying, hey, Blizzard has made a new game, check it out. And then you can click the button, depending on, the payment model, and then suddenly you have an audience of 30 million or something.
Yeah.
I think Blizzard is in a very unique position that really lets them push their games to people in a way that few other companies can.
Well, let me clarify this, because Battleborn is like the FPS MOBA hybrid, and Overwatch is not in any way a MOBA, right?
That is true. That is true. Not the only similarities it may have with a MOBA is that it has very strong characters, like strongly defined characters, but there are no. Mechanics-wise, there are no mobile elements. There are no new characters. There's no progression system. There's no leveling up your character and unlocking abilities as you play. And from what they said on stage and during interviews afterwards, they don't really have any plans in that regard either. My phone's ringing. And playing it, which I have.
Yeah.
From playing this, you can't tell that this is the first time Blizzard is making an FPS shooter, because it doesn't feel that way.
No.
When it comes down to stuff like responsiveness of the controls and all that stuff, it really feels like old school IT games in a way, or old school Valve games. Like the responsiveness and the tightness of the controls and all that's like spot on at the moment, which I think is pretty impressive for a first time effort.
Yeah. So. I guess this is one we're gonna hear and learn more about as time goes, but you can already sign up for the beta.
Yep.
I guess it's a closed beta. There's a website. If you just hit up the Overwatch.
Playoverwatch.com, and there's a
link. Exactly. Or you can find a link on the Gamereactor website. I'm sure we have it somewhere. Sure. But that might be trickier to find.
So this is a PC-only beta, and they talk PC. Do you think this will come to console as well, or is it like forever PC-only?
I think
because we had Diablo being a PC game.
Pure speculation, but I think it will definitely come to console at some point. What they're saying themselves so far is PC only, and not ready to talk about it.
That's how Diablo was as well. So I'm just hoping.
Yeah, exactly. And I think given the control systems they've set up and the mechanics they've set up, each hero has 3 abilities. So it should map pretty well
to stuff I was thinking about.
To a console controller. So I think it's a given that it'll come to console at one point, but PC is the first priority.
The only other thing I want to say, it looks cool, but it looks like a balancing nightmare for shooters. Like people have problem balancing shooters when people have the same guns basically, and this with all the abilities, That's going to be interesting to see how they get that to work.
Yeah, but I mean, think of it this way: each character only has one weapon and like maybe one or two abilities. So it's not like you have to like compared to something with Call of Duty where you got, I don't know, 40, 50, 60 guns or something, combined with
Attachments and
a dozen traits and all that stuff.
But
I think this might actually be simpler. And if anything, you know, it's Blizzard. They should know how to balance stuff because they have a huge load of experience with that.
But also the nature of it, you can switch around your class at any time. So if there's anything that feels unbalanced, you will probably have a solution. I mean, it's going to be a rock paper scissors kind of thing, I'm sure. So if you're running into troubles against a team that is made out in a certain way, maybe you can change your tactic. I mean, that's probably going to be the way. It's probably going to be sort of unbalanced balance.
Yeah, I just still hope we don't end up with like one or two characters being way better than the 40 other ones, and then everyone plays as those, because then that makes this game sort of lose what's cool about it right now.
Yeah, but I don't think so, because there's going to be different modes and there's going to be different. I mean, you know, any the situations are going to be different. It's sort of like in Garden Warfare, where you know you could say that, oh, this character is better, but then you have different modes and different objectives, and you know they all match up differently. So I think that is not as much a concern as it might be in a sort of a competitive shooter space where it's more about your personal progress. This is all about the team.
Let's hope so. All right, next Blizzard story.
Yes, the next one, what that we thought would be the big announcement at BlizzCon, StarCraft 2 Legacy of the Void, finally out of the dark. The third and final chapter of StarCraft 2 has been officially unveiled. It is, of course, the Protoss angle of the story. We're going to see Artanis and Zeratul attempt to unite their race against the threat of the Void. And there's going to be two new multiplayer modes that were showcased at BlizzCon. There's the Archon mode and then the Allied Commanders mode. Did you get a chance to try any of these, Rasmus?
I played the single-player campaign demo. I didn't get to play Archon mode, and the Commander mode they've only just announced and said you pick a commander and then you play with friends in a progressive thing, and that's it. They haven't even shown screenshots of it, so no one really knows what's going on there. Archon mode is going to be cool. For those who don't know, the idea is normally you have your base, you have your army, you go fight the other guy. Or if you're playing with more than one if you're playing 2v2, you have two bases, two armies, and then you go fight the two other guys. Archon mode, you have one base but two guys to control it. So and then it's up to you how you split your responsibilities. So you could potentially have one dude expanding the base, handling economy, while the other takes the army and go kicks ass, or you can have one dude attacking the front and then the other doing a sneak attack with the other part, or mix it up and match it as you want. The way they're sort of pitching it is like this should give you the ability to play on that pro Korean super APM level, except that you're two guys to handle one Korean, right?
So will you be able to play one Korean like this? Or?
No, I think you're restricted to playing other Archon. But it should give you some of that.
Think of getting matched up
having that unbelievable multitasking skill.
Yeah.
The top players have.
Let's hope the Koreans don't catch on to it, because then it will be just all the same story all over again.
They actually did a showcase match with four very high level Korean players. Like one of them was MC. I can't remember who the other was, but MC is a 3-time Korean champion in StarCraft, and one of the most winning money-wise StarCraft players ever. And his team won, by the way. Yeah, surprise, surprise. Another interesting announcement that they made was that Legacy of the Void will be a standalone game.
Yeah, that's weird.
So unlike Heart of the Swarm, it won't be an expansion. You won't need the old games to play it. So which makes you wonder how are they going to price this thing? But sure, why not? Do what you want.
Yeah, probably a little bit more expensive, but the expansions for StarCraft 2 were kind of like almost full price. So
yeah,
the Heart of the Swarm was, at least if you got the collector's edition.
Sure.
But yeah, I guess it's also like the amount of time it's gone. There's a little bit of a threshold perhaps for new players who haven't been along for the whole ride. Because this is, I don't know when this is going to come out, but it's it's going to be in 4 years or something since.
Yeah. Wings of Liberty is from 2010.
Yeah.
And I think they mentioned something about beta for Legacy of the Void next year.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure, but I think they did. I think that they said next year for most things in beta. So yeah, it's an understandable move. On the other hand, you have World of Warcraft where you buy everything, including Mist of Pandaria, as a one-time purchase if you want to play it. So they could have gone both ways, but as it is, StarCraft has always historically been about playing the latest version of the game. There's not really a community around that only plays the pre-expansion version. So everyone, likely anyone who has any interest in StarCraft will move on to Legacy of the Void once it hits, and then the old Horde of the Swarm will just lie dormant in a way.
Yeah. Any studio comments on Legacy of the Void?
I think it's time to move on to. We got plenty of BlizzCon stuff to
Yeah.
cover, so let's jump ahead to the next one.
Yes, and the next thing we're going to talk about, and we're going to have to keep it a little bit short here because I think Rasmus could talk about it a lot, is the expansion of Hearthstone, Goblins versus Gnomes, which was announced at BlizzCon, and 120 plus new cards.
They're saying around 120, so it might also be a little less, but yeah.
That would be disappointing, right? Only 118.
Yeah. Naxxramas had, I think, 30. So, regardless of how many they end up adding, it's going to be a huge addition to the game.
I'm interested to learn how big a thing at BlizzCon is Hearthstone today. Like how much of BlizzCon is focused on that game, because it's really blown up in the last year, and there hasn't really been a BlizzCon with Hearthstone before.
Yeah, it's huge. Last year they had, last year the game was still in closed beta by the time BlizzCon came around. They did have an invitational tournament, so they had something going on. This year the game's been out for a year. It has 20 million players. They had the first World Championship in StarCraft, in Hearthstone, with a I think $100,000 first prize. They had built this huge, pretty awesome stage setup that was sort of made to look like a Warcraft inn. With kegs and tables and giant beer cups and a big glass booth full of players to sit in, opposite of each other, so they could see each other as they play, which is very atypical for esports. But because this is a thoughtful mind game thing, you want to be able to bluff your opponent or try to read him as you play.
Taunt them.
Yeah. But, it was they played in the same area that the StarCraft 2 stage was in last year, and it had the same crowd capacity as StarCraft 2 had last year. This year, StarCraft, they had moved that to the arena that's attached to the convention center. It had this amazing stage. But Hearthstone is a huge deal, and it was a huge deal already last year, but it's only been growing.
So out of the cards that have been revealed, is there anything that stands out, anything that you sort of noticed, or any sort of overriding trend?
There's a lot of random effects, like a lot of death rattle something random, or do 1 to 4 random damage to a random opponent or something, or as a battle cry, when this card enters the board, deals X amount of damage to a random other card. A lot of random effects, which goes with the theme. A lot of stuff that blows up.
Yeah.
And they actually addressed this because a lot of, on some levels of Hearthstone play, you get a lot of complaints about the random number generator and how you're always unfortunate, or how it takes away skill from the game.
Yeah.
The argument against that is that, at the highest levels of play, you're able to minimize the randomness of it by building a deck in a certain way and playing your cards at the right time. And also the random element is what leads to those awesome player stories where, you're down to 1 hit point, and then his Ragnaros hits that one card on your board that will save you if it dies, and then you get to do one thing, and then you suddenly win.
Yeah.
There are some more awesome stories like that. They showed a video of one of them on stage. I can't remember which one, but we can look it up afterwards.
Yeah, and I guess that's always like having that joker on your hand is kind of, even if you're not the best player in the world, that something might, this is my last ditch thing. This might work out in my advantage.
Yeah, and it adds a little element of unpredictability and chaos to everything, which makes it a little more fun.
Also in theme, I guess.
Yeah.
We're gonna move on a little bit quicker now because I guess there's someone tapping their foot in the studio. So the Heroes of the Storm, we talked a little bit about it. The closed beta was dated. It's coming out on January 13th. How is that game shaping up? Just briefly in general terms.
Really well. I absolutely love playing it. I don't play it near as much as I would because I don't have the time, but I think it's a great game. And it's in a state where other companies could easily have released it. Like it seems ship ready, and it's been that way for a few months now. So no, I was actually surprised that they only announced that they put it in closed beta. I was expecting them to put an open beta announcement out, but you know, the main thing about it being beta from next year is that they can let a lot more players in. So hopefully everybody will get to play it soon.
You think that they will also sort of maybe start rolling out and seeing how the business model will actually play out in reality, or?
But I think the business model is pretty much in place at this point. Actually, I don't see them doing any major changes to it. And for those who don't know, the business model right now is that there's a rotation of heroes that are always available, changes every week, and then you can buy the heroes that you want, and they're priced in 3 different tiers. And then there's a ton of cosmetic stuff you can buy as well.
So everything's really there in place for them to kick things off, but they're keeping us on the edge of our seats for a little bit longer. We did talk a little bit about World of Warcraft, and of course that is one of the big releases this week. And a bit of a tough launch. Apparently, Blizzard were hit by a DDoS attack, and not to mention a whole lot of players coming in.
Yeah. I think the DDoS is only a part of it. It's also a question of server capacity and a lot of players being funneled into some very small areas at the moment. I logged on about an hour ago, and the game was unplayable.
Yeah. See if they've lowered the realm populations for now.
They put a cap on how many players can be logged into a given server at the same time, just to see if that helped. I think. I don't know if the cap is still active. It wasn't when I tried to log in, but it was yesterday evening.
Yeah.
This morning everything worked fine, and then around noon everything went to hell again. And right now, you know, if you go to Draenor, the new continent, the game is more or less unplayable at the moment.
So is this on par for what's usually the case with a World of Warcraft launch, or is it worse, or what's?
It's been so long that I can't actually remember for sure, but I think it might be slightly worse this time. But on the other hand, like back when the Burning Crusade launched, you had servers being down for days, I think.
Yeah.
You know.
You tend to forget that when you've spent 100 hours on a game.
Exactly, and you know, if they get this settled within the next week, everyone will forget this too.
Yeah.
So I think it's sort of par for the course. It's a lot worse than the Reaper of Souls expansion for Diablo 3. That was just a little message popped down in the corner. Reaper of Souls is now open, and then everything progressed as normal. Whereas this, kind of didn't work that way.
Different types of games though, so maybe make a straight comparison there. But yeah, I think we're done with all the BlizzCon stuff. Unless anyone
let's
in
see.
the
Of
studio
course,
has anything to add.
we're taking a look at the chat. So if you have any comments in there, let us know. I don't know if anybody has had any interesting tidbits to add to the discussion from the chat yet.
Not particularly. There was a question of whether or not we were gonna address the World of Warcraft server.
And we did.
And we just did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we should say also that Rasmus will be back on Tuesday next week for a full-on recap of his BlizzCon experiences, and that will be accompanied by a lot of different videos and stuff.
And
that
we'll be
also,
playing
produced.
World
of Warcraft, if it works. If it works.
Yeah.
We'll be playing something.
Yeah.
Yes.
We can always play Heroes of the Storm if everything sucks.
True.
Yeah. And that's not a bad alternative either, or Hearthstone,
I guess we'll
or you know.
We'll see what happens. But Tuesday is Blizzard Day.
Blizzard stuff. Yeah.
All right.
So the next order of business is the fact that finally, Just Cause 3 has been officially announced. It was the cover story of the latest Game Informer magazine, and we've learned some details about it. I'm going to read a quote here from Avalanche Studios founder Christopher Sundberg. We've been waiting for this moment ever since Just Cause 2 was released. This is the culmination of a decade's worth of open world evolution and innovation. In Just Cause 3, we've sent Rico to a beautiful Mediterranean archipelago. He is, of course, bringing his grapple and parachute, both with game-changing upgrades as well as a brand new wingsuit. Just Cause 3 truly represents the next generation of chaotic sandbox fun, and we can't show you more next year. And Just Cause 3 being developed for PC, PS4, Xbox One, and also they took the time to refute the notion of it being a freemium and microtransactions and all that kind of stuff that was rumored in the week before the announcement. It's a full-on retail game, and you should expect that kind of stuff. That's not to say that there won't be DLC, of course. But yeah, I understand that Yngwie has some experience with Just Cause 2, and to me, this announcement, except for the wingsuit, sounds pretty much like, hey, it's another Just Cause game. It's gonna be awesome chaos, but maybe not all too different in terms of what it offers.
Yeah, that's one of the brilliant things about Just Cause 2 is the defining characteristic of that game was just go out into the world and have a shitload of fun. And it wasn't about pretending to be, of course you were a secret agent, but it didn't have any connection to reality. It was just about having fun.
I heard a lot of people didn't really play the story, just ran around it, like people play GTA as well.
That's pretty much what I did. Hijack helicopters and bomb the shit out of everything. Yeah. And but one of the things that made it popular during its when it came out was that the map was absolutely huge. It was the biggest in any open world game when it came out. So I'm curious if they're gonna.
I think they said it's gonna be this just as big or bigger or something.
Right.
Yeah.
I think this is the number.
To start on. Oh, okay. We're back. So yeah, sorry the stream computer crashed, but we're back, and we had a question from the chat. Bengt and Rasmus should be here.
Yeah, there was a question whether or not whether Avalanche Studios is a big or small studio.
Yeah, I've actually had the privilege to sort of see Avalanche Studios from the small studio that did the first Just Cause, sub 100 people, blowing up to a pretty big studio for a while there. They were working on 3 projects at once, 2 of which got cancelled, and they had to downsize the studio again and left them doing Just Cause 2. So they were once again back to around 100, I guess. But now they have grown again, and they've set up a studio in New York that I think is principally responsible for Just Cause 3. Meanwhile, the Stockholm studio has been working on Mad Max, and they also got a subsidiary that's working on The Hunter, which is a hunting game, Expansive Worlds, and they're also working on some self-published stuff, I think, maybe mobile stuff. I don't really know exactly what that is, but nothing that's been announced. But certainly 2015 with Just Cause 3, Mad Max, hopefully, and potentially more announcements is going to be big for Avalanche. So the studio is certainly growing, and I would assume that it's around 200 people, maybe around that number now. Certainly bigger than they were when they started out.
Okay. Let's see. Should we move ahead to the next story?
Yeah. It's a quick one, and it's one that is.
I just want to say I did my pun of the day. I'm sorry you missed it. There was a Just Cause pun, and I feel it's I don't know. Yeah. We'll save it.
Don't be sorry you missed it. Really.
Just
you didn't actually miss anything.
It's become a tradition. Let's see here.
All right.
Yeah, Bengt, what's the next news story?
Yeah. Well, I was talking about jokes, and then this is the time to sort of come up with your best Mountain Dew and Doritos jokes. It has been announced that the Video Game Awards is a new thing. You may recall the old Video Game Awards and the video on Spike TV with Jeff Keighley. You may have some horrible nightmares about last year's
The VGX
attempt, the VGX, but it seems that Jeff Keighley and Spike TV has walked their separate ways, and Keighley's now hosting a new show in Las Vegas that will be streamed online, and it's going to be on December 5th, and he mentioned he's got the backing of the likes of Microsoft and Nintendo and Sony, and we've already heard some developers that are going to be around for that. The timing is also very close to that PlayStation Experience thing in
Yeah,
that's
like
also
the
in
6th
Vegas,
or
I think.
The 8th or something. Maybe I should go to Vegas.
Yeah. So
Maybe,
yeah, maybe we should go to Vegas, but likely that means that there's going to be a lot of developers in town anyway. There's a lot of independents that are going to be at the PlayStation Experience, so we assume that there's going to be some nice announcements made. I heard something about Dungeon Defenders 2 that's going to be there, but they haven't obviously revealed any of the nitty-gritty details of this. But mark December 5th in your calendars, because we know for sure there's likely going to be quite a few announcements coming out of that, and hopefully we all get free Doritos and Mountain Dew as a bonus. But I can't promise that yet. But that is something to put on your calendars, because presumably there will be quite a few announcements made at that show, and awards handed out if you care about that thing.
Apparently, Keighley is pouring his own money into the project. Like it's his thing. He's funding it, and he's trying to get some sponsors. So we might see Mountain Dew and Doritos, but nothing seems set in that regard yet. At least not from what he was talking about earlier in the week.
I think it's probably a good thing, because I think he's sort of in between lines. You've noticed that he's been a little bit frustrated by putting together a show and then sort of being railroaded by TV executives on what exactly should be put on the show and how it's produced.
The shittiness of the Video Game Awards, a lot of that obviously came from Viacom and from Spike TV wanting to hit a very wide male mainstream demographic and trying to do that by adding a bunch of celebrities that really had no place being there.
Yes.
I was at Video Game Awards the year before last, the year where they revealed The Last of Us. And
that's like 3 years
that's like
ago.
3 years ago, right?
I remember
that might
that
be.
very
Sure.
particularly.
And that show was kind of like, it was kind of crap. And also, like, for a game called Video Game Awards, I think they only handed out 1 or 2 awards on stage, and then the rest was handled in a press conference earlier in the day, because the stage show was about trailers and announcements and advertisements and a single band playing and some visual gags and jokes.
Yeah.
So hopefully this will be better, but
yeah, that'll be great.
Like, my main thing with it is that I'm not really sure where they sort of get the authority to actually hand these awards out.
That is very true.
Just given that they're calling it the Game Awards now, like as if this was the only show on Earth. And
I would kind of assume that it's going to be a sort of a jury of American journalists. That would be my assumption.
Yeah.
They're going to have like a jury that picks the winners. But that's America for you. it's if they put out awards, it's that's the global thing. After all, the baseball is called World Series.
Yeah, all the American sports.
With a straight face,
baby. Right.
Even though I think most of the players are from Cuba and Puerto Rico and stuff now, so I don't know. Japan. Perhaps not most, but a lot of the stars are. But yeah, we'll see how that pans out. There's a lot of question marks, especially since he's doing this on his own now. It's an independent thing, which could both be good in terms of what's actually on the show, but also sounds a little bit risky, because obviously production and that sort of thing costs a lot of money, and to get it up to the level, even though Spike TV sort of made a pretty shitty show, the production values might drop as a result of it being sort of an independently run thing. And anyway, so we'll see how that pans out. And the next story is, well, we were talking about getting Jonas Mäki on for this because he's our sales H guy, but he was not able to come on the show today. We hope to get him on next week, so that's a little teaser there for all his Swedish fans. But yeah, the MPD report was out last night, and it turns out that PlayStation 4, surprise, surprise, outsold Xbox One for the 10th month in a row in the US. And of course, the US is the market where it's most even, I would say. Most other markets, PS4 is pulling ahead a lot, but it's not as much in the US. But still, it's 10 in a row. We don't have the numbers on the hardware. It's just we know that PlayStation was the biggest one. Overall, sales dropped by 1%, but that is mainly thanks to the increased hardware sales. Of course, there was no new gen consoles out this time last year, so they rose 59% year on year, while software dropped by 28%. And to be honest, this was a kind of a slow month. October usually has more big releases than what was the case this year. NBA 2K15 sold the best, followed by Super Smash Bros. On 3DS and The Evil Within. Sunset Overdrive failed to make the top 10 in the 4 days it had. And yeah, so any comments on the US market?
Not really, I think. It's sort of what everybody thought it was, right? And then we had, as you say, with October, we had yeah, a little bit less, but we had some delays, and like Assassin's Creed and Battlefield used to be like the last week of October. We didn't have that this year. Assassin's Creed was moved into November. So, and I think also just before Black Friday, like November and December is going to be more. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Those are the big months.
yeah.
Yeah, but what I wanted to move on to is the fact that the day before MPD, Microsoft sent out a press release that they had, and this is an interesting choice of words, because they talk about what they've sold in at retail, and of course the timing, they have close to 10 million, and they will soon reach that number. But obviously you'd have to think that something that's sold in at retail, most retailers have probably placed the orders for what they're going to sell this Christmas. So the 10 million number really includes Christmas sales as well.
Sell in for close to 10 million. It's not even like, okay, we've sold in 10 million.
Yeah.
It's sort of a weird statement.
No. There's a lot of like making things sound bigger than they actually are.
There is a lot of spin on that. And we should compare it to the actual, I guess, sold in at stores, shipped numbers that are out there already. 13.5 million for Sony, as revealed per last of September, I think.
Aren't the PlayStation 4 numbers actually sold through?
It might be sold through.
I think they are.
I think it's not that big of a difference, to be honest. That's how good they're doing. And with of course Nintendo had 7.29 million Wii U units sold, but an interesting thing here was that there was a degree of damage control here, because of course Microsoft knew that they would not outsell PS4 for October, but there was a line here saying that they are outselling the competition since the price drop, which occurred on November 2nd. So since November 2nd, Xbox One has been outselling PS4 at least up until Wednesday in the US, which is interesting because it is there are still a lot of people that have to convert from last gen to new gen. So there's still something to fight for, and it's going to be interesting to see when the November numbers come if Microsoft could actually pull that off for the entire month. I'm not so sure. But if there's any month or any time they could do it, it's now, because Sony really doesn't have a lot of exclusives.
Was that cut only,
for the
price
next
cut, was that only in the US? Or is that in Europe as well?
Yes,
okay.
It was a $50 price cut in the
So
US.
I still need to get one.
And of course, there's a lot of bundles. They had the Advanced Warfare bundles. They had the Sunset Overdrive bundle out there. And now, of course, Halo has launched as well, which probably pushed a little bit of hardware. So they had a lot of things working towards them there, while Sony really I don't know. I think they're still sort of banking on Destiny as the big title, and you know, because Drive Club, of course, didn't really turn around as well as they'd
Little
hoped.
Big Planet
So
is not that. We'll see how that does, but that's not that big of a name anymore.
Yeah.
But it's going to be interesting to see how all the numbers are after Black Friday in the US.
absolutely, and of course the importance of November and December. You know, basically, it's more than 50% of the total sales of a year. I think those 2 months. So that is where the battle is being won and lost. So very interesting to see that.
All right, we got about 10
but
minutes.
we should move on.
Let's more. Any comments, Ingrid? You will jump in with that, right?
Yeah, I'll
other
jump
than
in.
that, then Bengt, what is the next news story?
Yes, we're going to talk about 2 troubled launches. First of all, we're going to talk about Assassin's Creed Unity, a game that is that had a really troubled launch earlier this week, and the result of that and the not so great reviews. I mean, you know, a 7 is a good review, but Metascores of 76 and 81. On Metacritic is not what Ubisoft were expecting. Neither was the market, and the stocks took a tumble, 9.12% down as a result of this. And Ubisoft have been sort of talking a little bit about, you know, maybe changing some practices around. There's been talk about the fact that a second team is working on an Assassin's Creed, so maybe the Montreal team will get a little bit longer to work on the next one. There's that sort of talk in there, but I thought I'd throw it off to everyone to see if they had any launch experiences with Unity and how they feel about it.
I've only played Assassin's Creed Rogue.
Yeah,
so
we played it here in the studio. Of course, we had the stream before launch where we played single player, and then we had the co-op stream yesterday, which didn't run perfectly because a lot of people couldn't join our game, and so there was a lot of online problems for us with that part. Sadly, so for people who was missed that, we're doing another one in 2 weeks, so you can join for that, and we'll give away the prizes we had for yesterday in that time. But other than that, there was some bugs in the game that has been reported on our side as well, which I feel is almost the usual stuff. It wasn't so bad for what we saw here in the studio. It wasn't as bad as it sounds like some other people had, but there's definitely been problems. Yeah.
I think there's been the PC version has had a lot of issues, and there's some hilarious pictures and videos out there that those looking to sort of, you know, laugh at Ubisoft's misfortune can take a look at. But yeah, I'm holding off actually playing Unity a little bit because I don't have to review it, so there's no reason for me to jump into a game that's probably right now the team is working very hard to patch and make it as good as possible. So we'll see where that lands. But certainly it was a troubled launch, and you know, there is a lot to be said of the frantic release schedule of Assassin's Creed games, and then maybe they of course pushed it 2 weeks. Maybe it needed to be pushed a little bit more, and then they're paying the price now. The other game with launch problems this week is Halo: The Master Chief Collection, a game that saw a huge patch come in day one. I think it was 15 gigs, but they are having some huge problem with the matchmaking. There's a bug that makes that sort of that puts you in on infinite hold in the matchmaking. They are making some adjustments now. They're changing things on the server side, and they've cut down the playlist so that it's a very small rotation, which should help wait times to get into game. But obviously, this is also a case of a game that maybe was pushed out the door before it was really done. And I think the fact that the multiplayer was delivered as a patch and not available on the disc is ample evidence of that. Either one of you played any Master Chief Collection, or am I the only one?
I haven't gotten to it yet. I want to get to it, but we actually had some interns in the Danish office this week, and I talked to them. They played a bit here in the office, and they had some problems as well. So yeah, there's problems with that. It's sad, and yeah, I think I'll doing with that what you're doing with Assassin's Creed. That I'm probably also doing with Assassin's Creed. I'm gonna jump proper into those games in some weeks when I know everything's working.
Yeah, personally, I mean, there were some niggles, but not. I mean, I've not played the multiplayer yet. I've only played co-op and single player campaign stuff, and there were some issues. I had some laggy experiences, and then some physics weird stuff with Halo 2, but you know, certainly not game breaking. I've seen reports online of a lot of crashes and stuff, and I've experienced nothing of that. So I don't know. I guess it's probably what you play and how you play it, but yeah. That's my experience isn't as bad as that, but of course I haven't played multiplayer, and obviously this is the stuff that they really need to get locked down. Proper,
but it's the usual thing where some people have problems and other people, for them it's running perfectly. So yeah.
Yeah, and I also guess it's a little bit with expectations. I mean, I wasn't expecting a game that was going to be completely polished, because it's old code that is being sort of rejuvenated, and there's gonna be some issues with that. It's very difficult to imagine that they could make that all work on the one roof without any sort of issues in the campaign. And also, you tend to sort of forget about some of the issues that were in the earlier games with physics and stuff that perhaps weren't perfect, because you hadn't seen a perfect game in terms of physics. I also
think like the most diehard fans are the competitive multiplayer fans, and if there's any problems with that, they'll be very quick to jump on that, and that can go from in that sort of game mode when it's PvP, very competitive. Any sort of problems or lag or anything will make that unplayable. So yeah.
Yeah, and of course they're changing things around with the 60 frames per second in the multiplayer, which is also like, some people are gonna really hate on that, because it sort of affects their game, the way they play the game. So we'll see where that goes. But certainly it's not been a problem-free launch for 343 Industries. But I guess Rasmus and Ingvi hasn't played it, so no comments from them.
No comments. No.
All right, let's jump to the last news story.
It's the last story of the day, and it's another delay story. It's not as bad as, let's get it out of the way. It's only a month, but Bloodborne's release has been pushed back by about a month from its original release date in February to the 25th of March in Europe, a couple of days later in the UK. This is a quote from developer Masaki Yamagiwa, who's a producer at Sony Computer Entertainment in Japan. Unfortunately, I'm here today to announce a short delay to the release date, as we need a few more weeks to deliver you the best possible final experience. And he goes on to thank people for playing the alpha, etc., etc. It's not a bad delay, but I guess there's some more tweaks that needs to be done that they found out with the alpha. I know you've been playing it, Nick.
We played it a bit. I played it with Magnus as well. We recorded a video on it that you can check out on the site. I think the game looked like very good and very finished, actually. So this sounds good. I'm actually sort of happy usually with these delays, because it means they're taking care of it, and we're probably getting a better game that way. So it was like coming out on my birthday or the day after or something, so that would have been perfect, but I'm happy to wait to get a better game. And also especially a game like this where it matters, these sort of tough games like this in Dark Souls are, if they're broken or they don't work, then it's absolutely terrible. So I think this sounds good, and I can't wait to play this game. It's so much fun.
That is as long as the order.
Yeah, it's weird because I actually thought
get delayed as well.
I thought the order was going to be the one that was delayed, because it was weird. They were coming out with under a week apart. So I thought, okay, I'll get Bloodborne and I'll wait a month or two in the order. So I'm interested to see if they keep that release date, because I love what I play at E3. I'm very positive on it, but I've heard other people who've seen stuff where it sounds like that game is not as far as you'd want it. But we'll have to wait and see.
It's
Yeah.
also fairly typical for those late winter, early spring games to actually get delayed, isn't it? Like, I mean, half the release schedule for February, March are games that were delayed from 2014.
And then there's the thing.
Yeah.
It makes sense that they don't get released past the end of March, as that's the end of the physical year. So I don't really see what they're going to do with the order now. I thought that was going to be delayed till the end of March, but yeah, let's just hope that the games turn out good. And
Yeah, I mean, I also get that, but I Sony doesn't really operate on the
true.
same principles as that. I think that if it needs to be delayed, it could be longer. The problem is that sometimes games that are meant for Q4 are delayed to sort of February, March, but they really need much more time than that, and then they'll get a second delay, and then that is sort of also a standard thing, because you don't want to say, when people have been expecting a game to come out in November and you delay it in September, you don't want to say, yeah, it's gonna come out in October next year. That's not the thing you want to say. You want to say, it's coming out early next year. It's not going to be a long wait. Then people have sort of got a lot of things to play. You can announce another delay and push it out a little further. But I'm not saying that that's going to happen to the order, but that is sometimes what happens, because it's all about not creating a negative negative
also, I think
notion
both
about the game.
Bloodborne and The Order are perfect fall and winter games when it's dark and all that. So, in the end, maybe it's better
It
The
is,
Order
but
comes
at the
out
same time,
next fall instead.
Yeah, I think they're also like The Order is kind of game that they're gonna launch a new IP with. It might be good not to avoid November, because there's so much else going on. I think Bloodborne sort of has its hardcore fans. They're gonna buy it day one, regardless of when it comes out. And maybe it's a good thing to be in late March. Maybe they have a little bit of room to get a few new people on board with that. So who knows? February looks so packed that I could easily see that it could be a good move to
maybe a summer
have it
release would
later.
make sense for them. There wouldn't be a lot to compete with. They would get a couple of months more.
Yeah, but I think we're ready to leave it over to Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, and I would like to thank Rasmus for joining us, and then you'll see more of him next week, and you'll see more of Nick and Ingvi right now, and I bid you all farewell, and thank you for watching us.
And what we'll actually do now is we'll cut to like a 30-second to 1 minute break, and then we'll be back with Call of Duty. So yeah, thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching.
And this one will be intentional.
Yes. So we'll be back in under a minute. So we'll see you in a bit.